Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you have found the Behind the Steel Curtain family of podcasts, and it's Wednesday night. That means the standard is the standard. My name is Brian Anthony Davis. You can call me Bad. Lance Williams is off on assignment tonight, and with us today is Big Bro Sco. Not my big bro, but Rich Schofield. How are you, my friend?
Hey, doing well. Glad to be here. Yeah. I'll just think about it that, I'm the better looking host than your normal, person here. I'll just say that. So take that, Lance.
You're better looking than Lance. We would need to have like a Zoolander type model off.
Oh, there you go.
Hair off. That'd be great.
Right, what are you looking at here?
Not my big bro, like I said, but editor Dave Schofield from Behind the Steel Curtain, his brother. But Rich, I think of you as family, so I'm going to call you Big Bro Sco myself.
Okay.
So so I'm just so glad this is the first time you and I have ever been on a show by ourselves. So this is new for me. So I've been on a show solo with every single member of the BTSC podcast family now. So this is great.
Uh-oh.
So great to see everybody in the live chat. We've got Patty Man, Mark Davison from Down Under. Thaddeus Kennedy's here. Dennis Sheridan with a holy chin straps. It's Bad Man and Rich. Dennis is great. And Northtop is in the house too. So, it's awesome. And this is something that we expect all the time, Big Bro. We expect that we're going to have some great fans in the live chat, which means there's always expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into training camp, which is going to happen, and a new season. So we're going to talk about expectations and unexpected expectations a little later on in the show. That's our topic for tonight. But some happenings in Pittsburgh Steeler land today. And the first one, well, it's about training camp. And the thing about training camp, the Pittsburgh Steelers they're saying, look, you can't come to training camp in Latrobe and check it out, but we're going to do our best in, COVID-19 style to try to get training camp to you. What do you think of the programming that the Steelers are going to try to do, Big Bro?
I think it's smart. It's a good way to go. It keeps the fans connected because really, I was sitting here thinking, really, training camp's going to go on and we might get tiny little nuggets sneak out here and there. This gives me the feeling that at least we're going to have the opportunity to know a little bit more about what's going on inside the facility.
And if you saw the article on Behind the Steel Curtain on our blog site today, your brother Dave Schofield put it out so you can see a little bit more on what they are expecting to do. There's going to be live programming starting August 17th, training camp wrap-up, Steelers Nation Radio, on-demand programming. They're going to have virtual press conferences. So it's something that's going to try to do the best that they can to get the fans back into it. So that's what we're looking at, and I'm pretty excited for it.
So am I, because otherwise I was just going to, I was going to be like everybody else sitting out there in the live chat. I was going to depend on what few nuggets I could get from BTSC to keep me, connected up with what was going on with the Steelers. But now I feel like there's going to be opportunities out there we're going to be able to watch. It's going to give us a whole heck of a lot more to talk about than we would have.
Absolutely.
So,
and speaking of those nuggets, that is something good to bring up. Check out behindthesteelcurtain.com for all of your Pittsburgh Steelers needs, because that's where you're going to find it. I was on the phone with Dave today when our topic that we're going to talk about next came up, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I got to go." And he's like, "I've got a breaking news. I got to write." And boom, it was out. One of the first things out there. I mean, it was like the bat signal came up, Rich.
Yeah.
And it's like hypocycloids in the sky. Dave Schofield sees them and he's like, boom, we're on it. And that's great.
I know he reacts, so I can actually hear this conversation going on.
He does that desperate. Gotta go.
Yes. Yeah.
So what was Dave Schofield so alarmed about today that he had to get on the website right away? Rich, do you want to talk about that?
Sure thing. We had another person that made it onto the, what are we calling it? The COVID-19 I know it's got a slash to it. I don't remember what it is, but Justin Spillane, his cornerback, has made his way onto that list. That means he has either tested positive for COVID-19 or has been exposed to someone who is positive for COVID-19.
And I hate to do this. I do have to, just a correction. You mixed up a linebacker in a corner.
I know. I said, it's just
Justin Lane.
Lane. I always confuse him and Spillane. It's like Spillane, Lane, whatever.
And I always think of Mickey Spillane. Remember Mike Hammer way back in the 80s? I mean,
yes, I do.
See, there you go. That's why we're on the show together.
That's why you and I are doing shows together, because we remember those obscure TV shows.
You, me, and Tony DeFeo. That's why Tony and I clicked. The first time I ever clicked with Tony DeFeo, I was writing about myself, and I was talking about how we're all different and how I was more into Bailey Quarters than Jennifer Marlowe on WKRP. Of course, Lonnie Anderson was everybody's favorite, and I mentioned Bailey Quarters, and then Tony, who I didn't know, was like, all right, we can be fast friends if you're bringing up a KRP reference. So that's awesome. But yeah, so Justin Lane, that means he's going to sit out. He won't be there for the start of training camp probably, or will he? Does he only have to sit out 14 days?
Actually, I thought they'd move that to potential. Oh, no, wait, wrong sport. Sorry, I've been on the baseball kick reading all this stuff lately and wanted to switch back there. I believe it has to do with 14 days and 2 negative tests.
Okay.
That's, they'll wait, and as he gets closer to that time, I think he has to pass, I think it's 2.
Okay. And that's something that, if I would have read the article that Dave put up there, I would probably be more in the know on that. But I did not read that as I was getting ready for this podcast. And
I was skimming it while I was working. So.
And Dennis Sheridan saying he thinks it might be 10 days. So
that's where I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it's 10 days, but then I got to thinking, no, wait, was that in the football story I was reading or the baseball story I was reading? So that's why I'm a little hesitant to say one way or the other.
And Dennis is also saying need to pass 2 tests. Yeah. Yes. So thank you for that information, Dennis. I appreciate that. It's really crazy because we have all this COVID news coming from every single sport. It's nice to see the NHL saying, hey, we don't have anybody. And baseball, I mean, especially down in Miami, I don't know whether they're partying or they're like drinking COVID shots.
Well, actually, did you see? Actually, a report came out then. I know I'm getting off topic of Steelers and stuff, but that actually came out that one of the visiting locker room attendants in Philly tested positive. So did they pick it up from an employee in Philadelphia? Who knows?
Very interesting. But as Dave's saying here too, now Dave's clarifying 2 consecutive negative tests, 24 hours apart. Don't think days are a thing. So interesting. So you might see Justin Lane back in the mix pretty soon. So that's I hope he ends up testing negative and does well. So best to Justin Lane. We have not had any Pittsburgh Steelers drop out of the entire season, as you and your brother Dave mentioned yesterday. A ton of Patriots did, and now today we get news that one of the Super Bowl champions, Damian Williams, has opted out as well. So, that's something that could happen. I know we're going to be talking about expecting the unexpected. Do you expect any Steelers to drop out?
Because I haven't seen anybody initially right now, I want to say no, but I don't necessarily think that is something that is real easy to predict right now, because a player's particular circumstances could change.
Absolutely.
Like if a player is married and has kids and suddenly the wife comes down with COVID and he's needed at home, could he opt out and go home? Yeah, could easily happen.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's hard to say that nobody's.
I mean, is that a Family Medical Leave Act?
Well, so it'd probably be a Family Medical Leave Act kind of thing, but then you've also got to talk about, okay, but how does that fit into the league and the COVID protocol? It could turn into a mess, something like that. So,
and your brother Dave is Someone came off reserve COVID-19 today already. And you know what? I haven't done this, and I didn't do it the other day. We talked about Lance's daughter's birthday and on Sunday, and we didn't talk about Mrs. Sco having a birthday on Sunday on the show, and I missed that completely. And not only were they celebrating that this week, Violet Schofield turned 12 today.
Yep,
so happy birthday to your niece.
Mm-hmm. I got to say happy birthday to her a little bit before we went on the show here. So
awesome. So, I should have thought about that earlier. And when I saw Dave, I'm like, I figured he'd be like knee deep in cake right now. And I could see Dave just like diving in, just like, all right, everyone's in bed. That's what I do.
You should see pictures of him from like his first or second birthday.
Hey,
that was like,
I'll pay for those
kind of things to come.
If you want to make some extra cash, you let me know. I'll be throwing some bucks your way to get some blackmail on the boss here. But with that being said, one more thing to go ahead and look at. It's what's going to happen in this season. So I know we've been talking about that a lot. So we were talking about, we're expecting all these things. We're expecting if Ben Roethlisberger comes back and he's healthy, the Steelers could win the whole thing. We're expecting James Conner to possibly not play the whole season because we haven't really seen him play a whole season. We're expecting the defense to pick up right where they left off and just be the best defense in the league. But unexpected things happen in this league, Rich. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we want you, and we're going to wait, so don't throw them out yet. But instead of questions from the live chat, we're going to ask for unexpected expectations from the live chat. But let's hold off on that because you know me, I'm not a good multitasker, if you know what I mean. So I have to wait on that. So let's take a look at these.
Let's talk about a few, and we'll get things rolling, and then we'll hop it over to the live chat and see if we can't just keep it rolling.
So we mentioned James Conner, right?
Yep.
So this is my unexpected expectation out of JC 3-0. James Conner plays a healthy full season. That would be unexpected.
Yes.
What do you think?
But it would be awesome.
Do you think that could happen?
Do I think it's beyond? No, it could. I don't expect it to happen. Yeah, when Dave and I on the Stat Geek, we've been through all kinds of numbers about, how many running backs, considered, first line running backs on teams have played all 16 games last season. There were very few. So being able to play a full 16-game season as a running back is not an easy thing to begin with.
And the expectations now are a 15-game season. That's always the best case scenario with your quarterback and your running back, because you're hoping that on week 17, when you're playing that 16th game, that they are in hoodies. They're in street clothes. They're laughing with each other, on the sidelines and cheering on reserves. And we have seen how glorious that week 17 last game could be. If we go back in time to 2004, two future superstars, two guys that were not Super Bowl MVPs, but pretty much could have been Super Bowl MVPs in 40 and 43 respectively, went off against Buffalo in 2004 when the Steelers were 14-1. And I'm talking about Willie Parker and James Harrison. They went off. So not only are you resting guys, but you have guys that are able to make their next step in that game. Yep. So if you're asking me, if we look at another expecting the unexpected, if the Steelers, I'm expecting that the Steelers rest a lot of guys on week 17, and Anthony McFarland and Alex Highsmith take that next step in week 17 to give us something to look forward to the very next year.
Exactly. So, like I said, there's so much that can play into it. So that's why I would say, Connor playing 16 games, even if healthy, would potentially still be unexpected. Still want to see it, though. I still want to see it.
I definitely want to see it.
Almost everybody in the live chat thinking the same thing. We want to see him. We want to see him play 16 games.
Let me ask you something about that, because I know I got off of it because I did that little sidebar going on week 17. But with Connor, do you think there's a more rootable Pittsburgh Steeler than James Conner right now?
I don't know. I don't know that there. I'd say probably the next closest one is probably Zach Banner.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing.
But I really still think I think it's Connor. How can you not root for the guy?
Because it's triumph of the human spirit. Correct. It's overcoming. It's the guy has, what he dealt with as far as cancer. Right. That was, that wasn't an easy one. No,
he kicked cancer's butt, came back to play football at the highest level, and has played well. And just honestly, when you hear the guy talk, he's just such a likable guy. How can you not root for James Conner?
Yeah, so that's why I think he is the most rootable Pittsburgh Steeler. And I wouldn't love anything more than him to make things so hard for the Steelers and Omar Khan and Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin in the offseason by going nuts and making contracts really hard in the offseason. I want those guys to have their heads spinning, because you've got guys like Bud Dupree, you have guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner and Cam Hayward, all needing new contracts. I hope it's so hard that they're like, oh my gosh, who do we keep?
That's a good problem to have.
Yep, that's what you look for.
Not always a good problem to work through, but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I would take that with I would take that instead of looking at a team like the Pirates, and you look at this lineup, you're like, gosh, who can we put in here? So, they need to add guys, and the Steelers, they have, in a lot of cases, they've got a lot of talent in a lot of places that somebody with talent is going to be left out, and we're going to see that in different places. One last thing I want to ask you about James Conner, though, Rich, is, I just mentioned baseball, and the one thing that I always love about stats in baseball is it's a newer one. It's WAR, wins over replacement, wins against replacement, excuse me. So what do you think a running back would have as far as a WAR attached to them? I would think a running back would have less of a WAR, because they're probably one of the more, I don't want to say replaceable, but you could fill in for a running back more. Would you agree with that?
I would, which is why you've seen such a decline in the salaries at the position, that they haven't kept up with your star wide receivers and your edge rushers, and even, your left tackles and things like that. That's why, Mr. Bud Naked Get Robbed, found his way out of Pittsburgh looking for all that more money, and he didn't get it. Okay. And I think that's because teams feel that guy is easier to replace.
A couple of weeks ago, or it could have been just last week, I was talking to Tony Defio on our show, Steelers Q&A, or it could have been the retro show. And we were talking about Mike Merriweather. Mm-hmm. And Mike Merriweather, 15 sacks in 1984. He was a superstar. In 87, he held out. In 88, he held out. In 89, they're trading him on draft day for a number 1 draft pick to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I ran into him in Maryland at an autograph signing, and some other guys at the signing were Jack Lambert and Ryan Clark. So Merriweather had a line, but he had less of a line, and I was helping work it. So I went over and I was just chatting with him, and I said, man, I hate to bring this up, but you broke my heart, because I was like in high school, I was like 16. when you left, and we didn't get anything for you. Tom Ricketts was awful. and he said, man, and it was the most sincere look as he shook his head, and he's like, I should have never left. I mean, I just didn't know. I was young. I didn't know. And I had an agent telling me, yeah, go get it.
Go get the money. The grass is greener. And he left, and he's like, oh, I should have stayed.
We've heard that from guys like Earl Holmes. We've heard that from a lot of Steelers after they've left and said, man, I would have never, I should have never gone. And Bill Cowher was telling Earl Holmes, he was saying, look, it's not the same here as it is everywhere else. But you know what? They feel they need that. And, even Earl said, I shouldn't have done it either. And he kept on saying, it's the Rooneys, it's the family, it's the culture. So I'm wondering if a guy like, what did you call him? But Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed? I love that.
Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wonder if Le'Veon Bell, deep down has that regret and wishes he would have stayed. Because now his situation with the Jets, I mean, like, there's plenty of green on the helmets. There's plenty of green in his wallet. But that's about it. Yeah. There's no gold.
Right. And he's another one that at some point in time is going to say, you know what, especially after he left, and he got a little more money guaranteed, but he's not going to make as much money overall. And the part that he really missed out on is that, the Steelers, a lot of times, you sign a contract with the Steelers, your chances of playing it out to the end are pretty good. We don't take a lot of our big name guys and give them contracts and then cut them partway through for the salary cap savings. It's just not our style. He probably could have made almost as much money staying here. He'd have been on a better team, better situation. But hey, he made a choice. And that's the part that, at some point in time, he'll have to look back on and he'll have to live with that choice.
Very good. So let's move on.
Yep.
And we're going to go to one of James Conner's best buddies, Juju Smith-Schuster. Those guys are thick as thieves. They're buddies. And they've been working out like crazy, which that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And Dave Schofield helped me out with this one, with this unexpected expectation. Juju Smith-Schuster fumbles, and it doesn't cost the Steelers a game. Would you take that expectation?
It's something I'd like to see, because it would then get, believe it or not, not that I ever want to see Juju fumble, but I'd rather see Juju fumble the ball 2 or 3 times this year and it not cost us a game than to him even go through this entire year and not fumble. Because then, if he fumbles again at a point in time that costs us a game, everybody jumps on that. He's a horrible fumbler. The guy's fumbled twice in his career.
That's it.
Both times it cost us games.
They were memorable and not the kind you want to remember. They were ones that you would beg to forget because, it may have cost them the playoffs both years, especially, we know about what happened against the Saints. We know about, even though the Ravens were in week 5, but that was
a game that would have been just huge for us to get.
Changes the season.
It does.
It absolutely changes the season. Because I don't think the Ravens go on that run, because they didn't lose until the playoffs after that. They went on an amazing run. So, that's something that I think about as well. So let's, that was a pretty short one, but I think Juju Smith-Schuster can, like you said, you don't really want a guy to fumble, but players get hit. They make mistakes. That happens. Rashard Mendenhall was not a notorious fumbler either, but he had one of the worst possible time.
If it's going to happen, I want to see it happen in a more benign situation. Something that's just, he lost a fumble, in the second quarter when we're up 2 touchdowns. It's if it's going to happen, I want to see something happen there, not in the last 2 minutes of a game.
And some fumbles in the wrong spot could be legacy killers. We almost saw Jerome Bettis' legacy completely crumble.
Oh, yes.
And you know what? And we talk about this. If Ben can't get in position and make that tackle on Nick Harper, it was Harper, right? For the Colts.
Yeah, I believe it was.
If his wife doesn't stab him with a kitchen knife the night before in a domestic dispute, he might go all the way.
Right. Yeah.
So there's so that just ended up being destiny for the Steelers, but that could have killed Ben Roethlisberger's career. Steeler Nation has turned around and they have completely labeled Juju Smith-Schuster as a fumbler. And like you said, he's only fumbled twice. So, just absolutely amazing how that can happen, how fickle fortune could kill a career. And really, Juju, with everything that Juju's done so far, I don't want to put that label on him, and I don't think he deserves it. I think he is so much more than that. So, this would be an unexpected expectation, but Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm expecting him to be an All-Pro this year.
Yeah.
Not just a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, whether it be a second team or a first team. That would be unexpected, but only Juju could measure the heart in his chest.
Right.
But by watching him and seeing everything, sure, you see a young kid and he is young. Sure, you see a guy that loves video games and putting his dog on Instagram and dancing and having fun. But when he's out there, he plays with heart. And would you say, Rich, that this is a guy that definitely needs a redemption year?
I don't know if I want to call it a redemption year, but more of a. I think Juju's going to have the feeling going into this year that he needs to show that last year was the blip and not the norm. He wants to go right back where he was 2 years ago.
I think he can.
I think he can too. Well, especially when you put 7 back there throwing in a ball.
There's that. And here's the big word that this could be an expected expectation because you expect them, Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sorry, Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger.
There you go.
And John Smith to have a great rapport with each other. It's that R word, rapport. And rapport is huge with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
And his receivers. And that's something that you expect them to have. Now, we expected Mason Rudolph and James Washington to have that Oklahoma State, that Steel Cowboy rapport, and it really didn't happen as much. In fact, Duck Hodges and James Washington had a better rapport. But with that being said,
I will pull up here something. Yeah, Thaddeus says, I don't think it's a redemption year. He had no quarterback and injuries. Thaddeus, I'm not going to say that I disagree with that, but I bet you if you ask Juju, he feels he needs redemption.
And perception,
he's that kind of competitor.
And everybody around the league that aren't in the Steel City know what they think is that Juju dropped off. He did have injuries. He didn't have quarterbacks. But you think, to your point, Rich, he doesn't agree. He's out to prove the world. That's why he's working out like a madman. That's why you haven't seen as much as far as shenanigans from him in the offseason. He seems like a serious guy that no holds barred. He seems like that guy this year. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
and he's the kind of guy I want on my team. He's not, he's not saying, oh, it was because of quarterbacks. He's not saying, oh, I was hurt. He's just saying, I didn't produce at the same level I did the year before, and I got to be better.
that's a chance for redemption. So I'll agree with that. Let's talk about 7. Let's talk about BTR. And remember the group GTR? They had a song in '86 called "When the Heart Rules the Mind."
Yes,
The guys from Yes, and so BTR. That's the first time we've ever called them. And Dennis Sheridan brought that up. BTR.
You got to give Dennis his props. BTR.
So BTR can throw the ball farther than he has in recent years. That would be an unexpected expectation. Is that possible? 38 coming off this injury?
I don't want to say, yeah, I guess it's again, when you're talking about some of these unexpected expectations, I try to think, what is the player thinking? What's going on in Ben's head? What's Ben's expectations of Ben?
Well, if I'm Ben Roethlisberger, I'm thinking, man, this thing has hurt. My elbow has hurt for the last 2 years. I'm thinking that I could sling with reckless abandon right now, and I'm feeling better, so I could probably throw it farther.
Yeah.
Is that a potential for damage? Maybe. But I mean, I think he's going to let her rip.
I think he is too. To draw a player comparison, when it comes to throwing the football and just having no fear of throwing the football, Ben reminds me a little bit of Brett Favre. Okay, he may not take exactly the chances Brett Favre did, but Brett Favre trusted his arm throughout his career, well into his 40s.
Yes.
Okay, trusted his arm. And I think that if his elbow is feeling better, Ben is going to trust his arm.
What is the word that we have always associated with Brett Favre? And I associate it with Ben Roethlisberger now. The G word. Gunslinger.
Oh, gun, yeah.
Do you consider him a cowboy and a gunslinger?
Who, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a little bit.
He's going to live by the sword. He was going to die by the sword.
And I think Ben showed that some, year before last when he threw for over 5,000 yards. He just wasn't afraid to step back there and sling it. And honestly, there's been times throughout his career, even when he was younger, where it was just late in the game and Ben would just go out and tell, oh, hop on, we're going. We're going to get down the field and we're going to score. And they would do it.
That's true. That is definitely true. So, you have Ben Roethlisberger this year not having to worry about Antonio Brown and forcing the ball into his arms.
Yep.
You don't have him throwing, I believe, 13 of 16 interceptions thrown his way. So that's something that you can really take as Ben Roethlisberger being healthy and not being afraid to throw the ball to any receiver that he wants to. So that's what I'm really expecting this year too. So I'm really excited. As far as Ben, yeah, I think he is a gunslinger. I think he's that guy that he's going to go ahead and throw it up. But I think those long balls are going to connect a whole lot better because his arm feels better. So that's what we're looking at the most. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Rich?
Well, I'm thinking what it is when he drops back to throw that long ball, he's not going to be thinking, A, is this going to hurt? And B, can I get it there? If he doesn't have to think of those two things, if he can just drop back, let it fly, and put it out there where it needs to be, the league better look out.
There you go. So let's talk.
Especially when we've surrounded him with so many more receiving weapons than he's had. Honestly, I think we can look back to 2017 when he still had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and you think, oh, look at everything that he had. I think we have gotten him enough now that we are back into that ability for him to spread the ball around. And,
well, let's talk about 17.
Okay.
He had AB.
Yep.
He had Martavis Bryant for part of that season.
Yep.
He had Juju. He even had Justin Hunter, which, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get cracked on that one. But
who's Justin Hunter?
You remember big number 11, former second round pick?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but he had a guy that when you're looking at the beginning of the season, you're looking at those four guys and you're thinking that Ben has all kinds of weapons in his arsenal. You didn't know what you had you did not know, you had no clue what you had in Vance McDonald because he just came in before week 4 of the preseason, and you had Jesse James. Now you go to 2020 and you still have Juju, but now he's surrounded by James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. I'll even go as far as saying maybe Deion Kane and Ryan Switzer.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't forget about the rapport factor with Ryan Switzer too. Then you look at his tight ends. This is the most loaded he's ever had with tight ends, right, in the promise of Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald. So you have guys that could catch the ball out of the backfield. Not quite what Le'Veon Bell did, but you have Jalen. You have James Conner that's shown that he could really pull in a ball in the backfield.
You got McFarland who's going to get some work in there, and
Benny Snell.
Yep.
Portna's saying don't forget Kobe Hamilton, and Thad said Hayward Bay. Those guys were there in 17 as well. Was Kobe? No, I think Kobe was gone. Kobe was there in 16, and I think he was gone after for the 17 season, but I'm not sure. That's something
I'd have to check on that one.
Yeah, it's something we want to look at, but I mean, good pool though, Portna.
First you said this, so I got to put it up there because Kyle is listening downstairs, and I had to say Jesse James caught that ball. Sorry, we can't say Jesse James in this house and not follow it up with Jesse James caught that ball. That's been our thing.
You know what? My friends were so glad when Jesse James left the team, not because it had anything to do with Jesse James, but I broke out my Cher imitation every time he caught the ball. I would do this, and this was even my team name, and it's still my team name in our daily fantasy league in the postseason. In the regular season with BTSC, and I'm not allowed to change it, but I would always go just like Jesse James, and I would try to be Cher, and they would hate that, and no one liked that. And I had one guy laugh at me. I'm like, all right, finally, I've got something. And so,
all right, so Reed's coming back. Tell us, Kobe left after 16. He went to Houston for 17.
That's right. That is absolutely right. So here's the question, and I've already asked this to you, and I'll ask everybody in the live chat. In Ben Roethlisberger's career, it's gone since 2004. Has he had any more weapons than he does now? I think he's loaded. I think he's got a full deck in his hand.
I would look at this group and say, if it doesn't work, it's not because we didn't have the weapons. We've had years where we haven't had the weapons. Where we've had serviceable guys, but not what guys you consider real weapons. He's got weapons this year. No doubt about it.
Lawrence Ledee thinks so. I think Ben has more weapons than he ever had. They're going to be a matchup nightmare for defenses to deal with.
Again, that's back to, I know Dave and I have talked on Stat Geek, and he and I have talked other times. Man, I want to see us go 12 personnel and see what teams do. And when the team brings in to load up against the run, I want us to take our 12 personnel and go 4-5, go spread everybody out and throw the ball. That could be a matchup nightmare for teams because we got a tight end like Ebron. And you've got, some physical wide receivers, and big wide receivers. And, I don't know. I can't wait. Can't wait. That's why the season better happen.
You just did a Bart Scott. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
So let's.
We all know how that turned out for Mr. Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, the New York Jets. Wow, I just remember how excited I was, and I was actually a little intimidated for about 3 seconds on the can't wait because everyone's like, "Oh, the Jets are fired up." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, let them be fired up." Yeah. All right, let's talk about the defense a little bit. So our expectations on the defense are that, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show, they're going to start off like fire, and they're going to be much better than they were last year, and they were pretty darn good last year.
Yep.
So my unexpected expectation is the defense can't stop anybody on third down. What if that happens?
Don't scare me, because that was our problems in 17 and 18 is we couldn't stop anybody on third down. That's what got fixed. That's the main thing I feel got fixed for last year. We started doing a better job getting off the field, or even if we gave up third downs, we didn't let those always turn into touchdowns. It just, don't scare me.
Can they revert?
That happens. If that ends up happening, I'm blaming you.
And I just got to bite your tongue admonishment from Dennis Sheridan.
I agree with Dennis.
I got to tell you, I'm going to blame your brother because he came up with that one. He came up with a lot of these on the phone with me today. But and Thad says make sure Vince Williams is on the bench on third down.
For bringing things up bad like that then end up coming true, and they're always his fault then. So
I think the defense is going to be better. I think they're going to be lights out. But are we getting too excited? I mean, is this a quick fit? Could this be the fear that I have that was just a fix and a 1-year aberration? Could it be the same with Chris Boswell? I mean, things were so bad and then it went back to awesome again. So you got to pick which one is the good one.
I think, and I actually said this in a show with Dave, that, I think that we are potentially defensively, we're potentially going to give up some more points this year than we did last year. But some of that could be because we're nursing big leads in the fourth quarter and give up sustained drives and give points up at the end that don't matter. And if that's the case, I don't care. Okay? Honestly, when it comes to the defense, one stat matters to me. W. That's it. The defense doesn't have to be better than last year or worse than last year or the same as last. I don't care. What I care about is W's. So if the defense plays good enough to support the offense and the offense plays good enough to support the defense that we keep leaving stadiums with W's, I don't care. I don't care where they rank at the end of the year according to, whoever.
I think that's a great sentiment. I mean, W's are the only thing that matter. But if that's all we talked about, if we didn't break down and look for topics, we're watching reruns of the Golden Girls right now.
Right. So in terms of the defense, I don't think – I think our issue is less likely to be, if we don't perform at the same level we did last year, even if we're close but not exactly the same, I don't think the breakdown is going to be because we can't get off the field on third down. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the biggest thing. I think there's going to be other things that might play into it to where we don't rank as high. Maybe we lock down well in the secondary, but we give up a lot more rushing yards, or vice versa.
Here's another thing that changes rankings too, Rich. And a lot of people don't even think about this. And we haven't seen this a long time with the Steelers. But if they get off to huge leads,
yeah, I live out in the country, and somebody just decided to take their loud truck and barreled down the road.
Well, that was actually quite impressive.
Yeah.
So so I don't even know what I'm saying. But no, if they get out to huge leads, one thing that could really change a ranking that doesn't change the W factor, but changes the fact that you can give up a lot of yards when you've got a comfortable lead in the fourth quarter and they're just slinging it. The other teams are,
and that even can play into the whole not getting off the field on third down. If you've got big leads and you're playing more in that prevent, you're going to give up more third downs.
Absolutely. As long as the prevent doesn't prevent the W, you're fine.
You're fine.
So here's the last one.
Okay.
And now I'm going to ask you guys to come up with your unexpected expectations. And the last one is another one that Dave came up with. This is a happy one. The offense scores on their first possession in 2020 in any game.
Yeah. Scores touchdown.
Yeah. We need to see a touchdown because we haven't seen that in a long time from the first possession. Used to. Do you expect that?
The offense, yeah, I do. And the offense, if they can turn it around and start scoring more touchdowns on their first possession this year, that even puts our defense in a much better position than we kept putting them in last year. And that could really have a ripple effect. But I do expect us to score some more touchdowns.
I think I lost Rich to Mr. Freeze. There he is. Okay, yeah.
If we don't score more touchdowns on our first possession, it's just going to solidify what is my leading theory behind why we've struggled with that. So,
very good. So let's go to Mark Tobin. And I don't know whether this is an unexpected expectation, but I like this comment. I feel like the offense is going to be average and underperform at times because Fichtner is going to have a say in the playbook versus Canada. What are your thoughts on that, Rich? Rich, sorry. Almost called you Dave.
Please don't do that. My mother still does that all the time. So, well, that actually plays a little bit into what I was talking about. If we're not scoring touchdowns still on our first possession, those are our scripted plays. Fichtner has a lot of control over all of that. And if we're still not scoring touchdowns on that first possession, I'm really going to question his ability to set up, those first, 15, 20 scripted plays.
Here would be an unexpected expectation for me is Ben Roethlisberger is not the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2020. And it is Randy Fichtner. That would be unexpected.
Yeah.
George Teston, he LOL'd and he was LOLing to somebody else. I pulled up the wrong thing. Thad Kennedy says, I don't think he was LOLing this one because this one's scary. Coronavirus is going to cost the Steelers 2 or more wins this season. That's either a forfeit or key players getting quarantined. I don't expect a forfeit whatsoever, Rich. And the reason I don't is because you've got a lot of players that could come in unless unless you have 25 guys go down. Right. But with practice squads and everything, I'm sure it's going to be crazy. We are going to have more breaking news on Saturday and Sunday in this season than we ever have. So, did I call you Dave again? George?
I just ignore it.
Oh, he was LOLing that I called you Dave.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. That's probably so.
I think I like you better than Dave.
Well, I like me better than Dave too.
I think
Dave likes me better than Dave. So
I feel bad. I love Dave.
but I love to pick on Dave, and I've gotten to pick on him his entire life.
I'm sure you have. And I've heard some stories about you getting him struck by lightning.
Oh, yes. Love that one. So, all right. Here's another good one comes up. The offense ends their turnover streak in the first game.
I think so.
To me, that's not an unexpected expectation.
No, we expect that. But good one.
So,
here's one, Portnaquenba. And he called somebody a D word earlier. I hope it wasn't me. I don't know if it was somebody in the live chat or if it was something stupid that I said when I was talking about gunslingers. So, Portna, if I offended you, let me know because I just want to know for the record. Unexpected, Dobbs returns backup QB and gives us decent quarterback play. I would not expect that.
Yeah, I would not expect that either.
And I hope that doesn't happen. I think he's a nice guy. He's a smart guy, but I think they have so much. They have some other guys. So there you go. We're getting yelled at by Dave. Stop the breaking news talk. What did I break?
I don't know, but we'll let him, we'll let him stick to breaking news.
So and here's the last one we're going to look at. Dean McCray, Jags, Bucks, and Dolphins will lose players for sure. That's probably an expected expectation. Yeah, I mean, in Florida, I mean, we're seeing it with the Miami Marlins right now. Florida's crazy. Will Texas? Will Texas lose guys?
Anybody can. Okay, really, anybody can. All it takes is an exposure and someone not realize it and walk into the locker room and cascades. I mean, it could, because honestly, I think that's what's happened with the Marlins. And the reason I said this to you was that it was reported today that one of the visitor clubhouse attendants for the Phillies tested positive. Well, that was the locker room that was taking care of the Marlins. Did he catch it from one of them? Did he give it? Who knows?
It's Philadelphia, so I'm going to blame it on Gritty.
Okay.
The Flyers mascot. I think that's the best thing. There's a lot of noise in my background. I have an almost 13-year-old that is making a lot of noise, so please excuse that. Dave mentioned that the reason he was yelling at me, you said there will be a lot of breaking news on Saturdays. Dave doesn't want to work hard on Saturdays, so I guess that's the thing there.
Just on
Russ.
Saturday? Sorry.
Oh, that's funny. Russ says, does anyone expect Barron to return? I still do.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
And especially if somebody gets hit with COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be really, you're going to have to get to know a lot of names this year. There's some guys that are going to be starting on Sunday that you did not expect on Saturday around the league. So this is going to be, it's going to be like 1987 when Ted Peterson came back and you had Steve Bono at quarterback and you had all these names that for 3 weeks, like Shane Falco of the Washington Sentinels. It could be really crazy. Dennis had an expectation. I didn't read it, but I trust Dennis, so I'm just going to bring it up. Expectations, none, since this is all pretty speculative. And this point, I'm taking it one day at a time until we see what shakes out. That's why I love Dennis Sheridan.
I don't blame you. That's the easier way to go.
Yeah. Dennis was like, all right, shut up, guys. I'm done. And so the last thing that we're going to say before we get out of here, Russ Obenstein has a question. Do you guys think guys that have opted out should be able to come back mid-season if COVID isn't hitting big? I do. Man, I don't know what's going to happen there. I mean, if they opt out, I'm sure they're going to let them come back.
Let's say if they opt out, and let's say, I don't know, Well, we've been speculating all night, so let me just speculate again. Mid-October, suddenly they come out with a vaccine. And somebody that's opted out wants to come back. Do they let them? I don't know.
I think so.
I've given Dave more work to do because that's the kind of question that'll drive him nuts. He'll start looking into it.
Now this is a man after my own heart. I've actually watched a replacement game. Steelers and Rams from '87 in the last 6 weeks. Reggie Collier was better than Bono. Actually, Reggie Collier was pretty darn good too. Back to our question, Dave is actually saying he thinks once they're out, they're out. So
it was probably written. It potentially was written into the deal that way, which wouldn't surprise me.
Thaddeus backs it up. He read until new league year 2021. So no Damian Williams. Hilaire, the number 1 pick from LSU for the Chiefs, just got a starting job just like that. I had a feeling he was going to seize it as well, but wow, the Chiefs just got 2 big contributors from 2019. I can never pronounce this guy's name right. Laurent Duvernay Tardif, the Canadian Canadian MD who is valiantly staying in the healthcare industry, and he is a doctor, and he's staying there to help fight COVID. So a hero in my book. But so he'll be out this season. He was a starting offensive lineman and a pretty good one, if you ask me. And then now Damian Williams today. Thaddeus asked if coaches are able to opt out, and I'm hoping Randy Fietner does. And no soda for you, Randy. No soda for you. So let's wrap this up. I'm going to opt out right now. Not for the year. I'm allowed to come back. But I'm going to opt out for the hour. So with that being said, thank you so much, Big Bro Sco, Rich Schofield. It was a pleasure to work with you. But the big pleasure for me tonight, as always, is to see these fantastic people in the live chat that are, they are diehards for BTSC. They're a part of our BTSC family. So I love every name on the screen. Thank you so much for being a part of us. We can't do this show without you. Big Bro, take us out. What do you got?
Oh, let's see. We got to remember. Oh, gee whiz. Now you're asking me. I should see what I can do to remember the lineup for podcasts. Today's what, Wednesday? So let's see. Tomorrow night we are back. You're back.
I'm back.
Are you back tomorrow night? You're back tomorrow night.
I will.
Oh, gee whiz. It's you and Dave, and is Michael in on that one?
Yeah, it is going to be Michael Beck, Brian Anthony Davis, and one David Arthur Schofield. And so it'll be the three of us and doing the preview. Then on Friday, Lance Williams with I Said It. On Saturday, it's
Brunch with Tony.
And then on Sunday, it's Lance and Mike Beck with the Sunday show that has not been named as of yet. And then we go back to Tony and I and a whole new week, and concluding on Tuesday with the great show, Steelers Stat Geek, with you and your brother.
Yep. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. We do appreciate it. Please check out the website for BTSC for all your Steeler information. Stories coming out all the time, so keep an eye out. And as Lance Williams likes to always say, please. Oh, now I lost it. I said Lance Williams, and I forgot about it. Tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
We'll see y'all.
See y'all.